Biliyor musun? Erken rezervasyon başladı. Yazın en renkli fırsatları cyprusparadise.com'da. %40, %50 hatta %60'a varan kaçırılmaz indirimler. Erken rezervasyon yap, uçak bileti fiyatına paket tatili al. Uygun fiyata Kıbrıs tatilinin adresi cyprusparadise.com. Zaman akıp gitmeden acele edin. Bir bakmışsınız yaz gelmiş. Cyprus Paradise. Tatiliniz bizimle güvende.
Kalitenin, güvenin, hızlı teslimatın adresi Ancon Furniture. Ancon Furniture ailesi olarak yeni ürünler ile hizmete devam etmekteyiz. Yeni model koltuk takımlarımız, yatak mekanizmaları bir dokunuş ile açılıp bir dokunuş ile kapanabilmektedir. Bir dokunuş ile açtığımız yatak mekanizmasının yatak çarşafı kullanıma hazır, serili olarak içinden çıkmaktadır. Yıl sonuna kadar herhangi bir koltuk takımı alan her müşterimize akıllı sehpa hediyemizdir. En iyi ürün, en iyi fiyat. Sadece Ancon Furniture'da. Bize uğramadan karar vermeyin. En iyisini biz yapana kadar daha iyisi yok.
Hello everyone, good evening. Welcome to this special program. Tonight, as I said, it's a special program. Last Tuesday, on the 23rd of March, it was the National Day of Reflection. We reflected on our collective losses. For those who have lost loved ones, every day has been a day of reflection. Not one day goes that we do not reflect on our individual losses. So the idea of last week, the 23rd, was also to support the bereaved families. You have seen in the beginning the pictures of those who lost their lives from our Cypriot community, who lost their lives to COVID-19. More than 800 Cypriot people and people from Turkey lost their lives. This figure may even be underestimated. So in the next couple of weeks, we are going to talk at the show sections of our communities dealing with grief. And in this program, we are going to start talking about how men have been dealing with grief. These programs have been sponsored by the Ubele Initiative and Stream, two organizations supporting Black, Asian, and minority ethnic communities during the COVID crisis. We'll have a esteemed guest who will talk to you about the work of these wonderful organizations. But now I'd like to introduce my guests. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome, Ertanc.
Hi, hello, everyone. Hello, Patrick.
Hello.
Erkan, Hüseyin. Hello, welcome to the program. Yes, as you saw in the beginning, a very sad picture of those people who unfortunately lost their lives in our community. And hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people lost their lives, unfortunately, to this horrible virus. So in this program, as I said, men usually, we are not very good at dealing with grief. And the whole idea of talking about this really difficult subject is to help men, especially with some strategies of dealing with grief. Erkan, I would like to start with you, because you've been one of those men who have been really very actively talking about your loss, the loss of your mom. So can you please tell us about your story, Erkan?
Yes, it's been extremely difficult times. Basically, Mum was in a nursing home. She was doing perfectly well with underlying health problems. And when the stories of the pandemic started kicking in at the start of the year, soon after, the care home went into lockdown. So for about 6-7 weeks, I couldn't see my mother, be with her, only telephone contact. Only the telephone contact over the phone, and she was reporting in, I was checking in with her and taking visits to give her some food that she liked from her culture. That was bad enough, and then we went into national lockdown. So not only am I stuck in my own home, I can't see my mum. It's been very, very tragic in that way. And then 6-7 weeks into the lockdowns, Mum reported to me over the phone in the early morning call we had. She said, "I didn't let the nurse in last night." I said, "Why is that, Mum?" She goes, "She was sneezing and coughing in the corridor. And she was about to give Mum her pills." So hearing was extreme straw over the phone, because there's nothing I can do. I'm not there. Normally I'm visiting every single day and I'm with her all afternoon. I reported it to the nursing home. They said, "We check the temperatures of the staff coming in." That's all they did. Isolating. So they had to rely on agency staff coming in on a regular basis. Mum doesn't know the person. She didn't recognize them. And Mum's cognitive behavior was perfect. There was nothing wrong with my mum. It's just her body, her kidneys, her lungs were weak. So I reported the case to the managers, and literally, to cut a long story short, 2 days after this incident, Again, a phone call in the morning. 2 days after the incident, mum's saying, I don't feel like getting out of bed. I've got temperature. I'm just going to stay in bed today. I feel comfortable here. And this carried on every day. Every day I'm listening to her getting weaker and weaker over the phone. Next day, she's got a dry, tickly cough, persistent coughing. I'm on to the nurses, I'm on to her. And this just got worse and worse and worse over the phone. Whilst I'm in lockdown, whilst my business is shut down, the pandemic, full lockdown was in by then. I was going crazy. I'm locked in this house on my own. I can't go out. I can't be by my mum's side. This is an unusual and tragic experience. Soon, about 5-6 days into this ordeal, my mum stopped picking up the phone. Where she's very, very alert, she'll pick up the phone, talk to me, switch on her satellite TV, phone her friends on the phone. She's very cognitive, very, very alert. Gradually, she's not answering the phone at all. So I'm ringing nurses, I'm ringing my mum, not getting response, making them run to her room. She's in a private room. This is so frustrating. You can't be there. You can't see what's going on. And the staff at the nursing home was obviously overwhelmed because they haven't got their full-time people there. So the frustration is building up in me. I can't help. I can't do anything. Response to me was zero. I had to call a GP. She only done a FaceTime investigation on my mum. How she made any decisions on that, I don't know. So the staff privately told me, we've been told, leave them here. We've been told not to send them to the hospitals. What am I supposed to do? That's basically saying they've been left here to die. That's how I interpreted that. I said, no, I want you to ring an ambulance. I want you to take my mum to the hospital. So on my instruction, they did. They took her to the hospital with A&E services. My mum was put into intensive care straight away. She had carbon dioxide build-up in her lungs. Oxygen was very low. Mum's been through this before. She, with the right treatment, they could have pulled her through. It's just they haven't been, I don't know, caring for her. I don't know what they've been doing because I've not been there to see it. So the doctor said she's okay at the moment. We've stabilized her. We've given her the right medication. If things go bad, what do you want us to do? I said to them, my mum's standard instruction always is, do not resuscitate. So I had to adhere to my mum. She's always been adamant not to be resuscitated. The doctor said, there is no threat of that at the moment. She's stable. We've got her under control. She's here. This went on for 2-3 days. No contact with mum. On the second, my mum was alert. She was awake. She said to the doctor, who called me to find out my mum's background, because the home couldn't answer the phone. They weren't there. They weren't giving any knowledge. It's like they've just dumped her into the hospital and forgot about her. I said, look, I'm her doctor. I know everything about my mum. I'm there 24 hours a day with my mum. I've left 70-80% of my work and I'm with my mum every day, making sure she gets attention the way she needs it. I told them exactly what treatment furosemide has always been given to her. She's on these meds. He goes, well, thank you for that information. He goes, we've done a COVID test on your mum when she arrived. It's a standard procedure. Let's wait. At the moment, she's okay. My mum said, where's my son? She's very cognitive, very, very alert, my mum. She said to the doctor, your mum said, where's my son? She's used to seeing me. I said, she knows I'm always with her and I wouldn't leave her alone in an intensive care unit. She goes, all right, but you can't come in at the moment. Following day, I rang again. She's in the ward. but she's not responding to their treatment. I've given them a suggestions over the phone, what might be going wrong. She's been on a high pressure breathing machine. It just wasn't working for her. And the doctor contacted her. COVID eyes have come back. Prior to I said, I don't understand. Sneezing and coughing outside infected her from that moment, because
Okay. I think we lost Erkan. Yes, very sad story. I think I can hear a lot of anger at the way Erkan's mom was treated, and I'm sure a lot of us felt the same. I mean, can I ask you, Patrick, have you, I mean, you must have heard a lot of stories like Erkan's. Has
Yes.
there been a lot of like complaints about the way people were treated at the hospitals? We know, I mean, we know that they were under a lot of pressure, but at the same time, is it okay for someone to suggest how his mom should be treated to the doctors? I mean, that's really, it seems to me, very ridiculous situation.
Yes, I've come across lots of examples similar to what we've just heard. Just want to give my my heartfelt condolences to him and to all of us sharing our stories. It's very difficult to share the stories. It's bad enough trying to deal with, say goodbye to a loved one, and then when you observe that something's not right in terms of their treatment and care. So there are a number of family networks have come together. There's the COVID Family Bereavement Network. There's a 3,000 families come together. They've been, as you know, in the media, they've been demanding a public inquiry, that we need to have a fully fledged inquiry to find out what's happened. And I support that, and I think a lot of people support that. It's really fantastic for members of the Turkish Kurdish Cypriot community to support that campaign. Secondly, there are a number of internal reviews and investigations taking place by the NHS. One of them I'm involved in. I chair the citizens panel of the Healthcare Investigation Branch, and they're doing a review of 111 calls linked to COVID deaths. So one of the key things I think for all communities is, if you feel that something wasn't right in how your loved one was treated, don't be quiet about it. Don't feel because of COVID you have to keep your head down because it's a national thing, and therefore you have the right, as all citizens have the right to complain or to raise concerns. That's the only way that we'll get the full facts, and that's the only way that we'll get the truth as well.
Absolutely. Erkan, can you hear us now? Erkan? Oh, Erkan is gone again. Yes, I'm grateful to you, Patrick, what you've just said. And I think a lot of us do feel that because the hospital staff have been under such pressure. And at the same time, you hear all these stories from a lot of people about the way their loved ones were treated, that something has to be done. I feel the same. Perhaps Gülay can play my contribution. What I did, I spoke at this event Patrick's organization organized. It was a worldwide webinar about our experiences of COVID and dealing with the loss of our loved ones. Country by country, we spoke about what's been happening in our country and within our communities. So Gülay, if you can play that little extract from a 2-3 hours meeting. if you could. Grief is universal, as we've been hearing. It has no boundaries, and however, COVID has seen to it that we have not been able to grieve, mourn in accordance to our customs and traditions. This has caused a lot of stress for all of us, for all communities. On a cold Saturday afternoon, on the 14th of November last year, I received a call from my nephew. He was crying, not being able to speak. His mom, my sister, had collapsed, and despite his and the paramedics' efforts, she died on the passage floor. We rushed there, but we were not able to go in the house. We were speaking to the paramedics, the ambulance people. There were three of them, three ambulances. None of them were wearing masks, by the way, but they were quite nice. My sister had been showing symptoms of COVID for a few weeks prior to that day. Her GP basically fobbed her off by sending her some antibiotics. And on the day, despite repeated calls to 111 and 999, a few hours before her death, her symptoms were not deemed to be urgent. They weren't warranted to needing urgent attention. So forgive me for not rushing to give unqualified support and gratitude to the NHS. I know a lot of dedicated staff work for the NHS, but I'm afraid it too is infected with racism and unconscious bias. In fact, I don't know whether bias can be unconscious. Judging by the huge number of BAME nurses and doctors who died of COVID, systemic racism is also seen in the health services in this country. I'm not a religious man. Generally speaking, we Turkish Cypriots are not particularly religious. But my sister was. She was a devout Muslim. She was hoping to go to Mecca on a pilgrimage later on in her life. She was 67. Whether religious or not, however, we hold on to our customs at times of death and at other important events. We share our grief. We grieve together. We mourn together as a community. A fact not very different from cultures of people here today. Immediately on hearing the sad news, families and loved ones of the deceased start congregating at the home of the deceased. On 3 consecutive days, immediately following the burial, we get together to pray for the deceased. We call it Mevlid. Prayers are told by the Hoja, who recites sections of the Quran. Food is shared. We reminisce about him or her. Burial should take place within 24 hours or as soon as possible after death. This has not been possible during these very difficult times. We hear about long delays at the coroner's office, or due to a very large number of deaths, bodies have to wait at mosques, morgues. All these have added to our griefs. We were not able to fulfill the requirements of our customs. To me, one of the most haunting pictures of the pandemic was the picture which featured on the Reuters news report. It showed Hüseyin Hoca, the Imam, the Muslim religious figure, in front of a grave. It was raining, and he had a white see-through umbrella, a forlorn figure trying to fulfill his duties with 5 of the family of the deceased. Hüseyin Hoca is a very good friend of mine. he tells me distressing stories of similar nature. Nearly 500 members of the Turkish Cypriot, Turkish and Kurdish communities died as a result of COVID. It's a huge number considering our numbers are not very significant in this country. 2 or 3 members of the same family perish within hours, days of each other. People were not able to say goodbye to their loved ones in hospital, sometimes because of the lack of communication in English. The sudden passing of my sister meant that I was not able to say goodbye to her. I spoke to her a day before. She told me she was not well. I feel guilty that I did not do enough to get her help. I can't help feeling that if I and the rest of her family did more, she would have been here with us today. To see the community pulling together has been a very positive thing. A lot of community organizations have pulled together and organized urgent help for people from the community, not just people from the community, but from all communities, which was really great to see. But I think the lady from America said that grief is not just about death of a loved one. As a touchy-feely community, not being able to embrace, hug each other has been a huge cause of distress for us. To finish, I'd like to read a few verses I wrote on the occasion of the birthday of my granddaughter. Oh, how I wish I could give you a hug if it wasn't for this horrible, horrible bug. I could hear you saying in your cheeky way, it's not a bug, Dede, it's a virus. Whatever, it's what separates us. One day soon, my darling, we'll embrace. Those horrible times will at least erase. Thank you very much for listening. Yeah, let's hope those horrible times will come to an end very soon. Hüseyin Hoca is here with us, my good friend I mentioned in that little extract. Can I ask you, Hüseyin, I mean, obviously you've officiated at numerous funerals. You've been supporting people over and above your religious duties. So, and you yourself, in fact, have lost, we were talking before we came on the program, you lost about 6 members of your own family and relatives. So what can you tell us about how we men especially have been basically dealing with this loss? What are we doing? What should we be doing?
I want to give my deepest condolences to everyone who's watching this program who's been affected by COVID. I think vast people in the community have had loss or know someone who has been a victim of COVID, like yourself. I really found that hard to listen to Ertanc talking about your sister, because she spoke to me about 15 days before she passed away, and it was a shock. She went so suddenly, and I think you're completely right. You don't have to be religious, and you can have different beliefs, but COVID brought us all together, and it's very sad that we can't. I think the most hardest thing to sit here and say is that we could not. Erkan was saying he couldn't be there for his mum. Lots of people couldn't be there in hospital. And how does a man cope with losing loved ones? I think, you know, in normal times, men do suppress and hold back so they don't show people. But I think with COVID, because there was less numbers of mourners coming to the burials, and it was just immediate families, I saw for the first time in many years sorrow and grief. I saw men shedding tears like babies, and sitting on the side of the grave and crying like a woman would cry, or being able to express their grief. And to be really honest, it's a year now. It's a year now we've lost loved ones, and now we are remembering those who we lost in March 2020 and April 2020. Yesterday, I done several services, yearly services, and we're doing these at the gravesides because people can't still congregate at home. And I'm seeing that the families are still suffering. And when I say suffering, it's just people are still completely not come to terms with their loss. They can't accept their loss. And you was quite right to say people have lost multiple members of their families, and it's heartbreaking. We have a lady in the community that's lost 3 of her children, and her husband, and her nephew. And there's so many cases like this, and we need to be there for these people because it is hard, and we're not. These are very challenging times because you can't even go to visit these people. Just put your arm around them and show them support. They're left to mourn on their own. And in the second wave, we had something that we didn't experience in the first time, was people dying not from COVID but from heartbreak. So we had people dying from COVID, and before we could even do the 40th day remembrance, their mothers or their fathers or their sisters were passing because it was just too much to take. We are a very grief-stricken community at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's going to take a long time to heal.
Yeah, it will take a very long time, if it will ever heal at all. And Patrick, obviously, as I said earlier, you come across with many people from all different communities. You deal with a lot of different communities, and the issues we are raising are not really unique to just our community. And can you tell us about your organization, yourself? What have you been doing to help sufferers of COVID and families who lost loved ones?
Sure. So it's really great to be in your show, and for all your listeners, just want to give my condolences. I lost my brother-in-law to COVID a year ago. His name was Alex, and it's still having a big impact on my family. So we're all, as we know, grief is universal, but how we grieve is different from our faiths, our cultural backgrounds, our norms. And what's quite clear in the early days of the pandemic, especially a lot of Black and Asian non-ethnic frontline staff working for the NHS were dying quite rapidly without any proper explanation. And now we know that there wasn't proper PPE given to them. We now know that some of those frontline workers were exposed because of the types of jobs that they did. And also, in particular, those nurses, they were put in COVID wards. So this has had an impact on all communities. Behind me, there's a poster done by a Guardian artist, which names all the BME frontline staff working in the NHS who died of COVID-19. This has had a massive impact, as you know. And one of the things that we identified in the early days of Ubele Initiative, which is an organisation that supports Black and non-ethnic communities around health, well-being, around capacity building and advocacy, that a lot of us were dying. Our family members were still trying to grieve, and even though there are mainstream services out there that provide counselling and support, such as crews and others, they don't meet the faith, cultural aspects of our communities. Obviously we have imams, we have community leaders that play their bit, but often people want to do it sometimes with professional support. Professional counsellors who understand the community, understand our cultural norms. So we decided to launch Mainstream as a way to support those communities, the diversity of Black and Asian minority communities to get the counselling support that they need. There is no national offer. So working for an organisation called Nasfiat, we provide 20 community languages. They have therapists that reflect the diversity of Black, Asian and Turkish separate communities in Britain, and they are providing counselling support, providing sessions, and they're free of charge because we've raised money for this. So anyone who wants to have access to that service, they can go onto the BAME Stream website, which is BAME, BAME, stream as in river.org.uk, and you can complete the referral form and you'll be seen within 2 weeks. That's one thing that we've done. The second thing that we've done is in terms of how do we say goodbye to our loved ones. As you know, with the impact of the COVID restrictions, we were restricted in the number of people who could go to burials and the process of saying goodbye. And for many, for many whose loved ones went to hospital, that was the last time they saw their loved ones. They weren't allowed to go into hospital, say goodbye to them, nothing at all. So we've been robbed of how we say goodbye. So we've launched the Majonzi Fund. And the Majonzi is a Swahili word, means grief and deep sorrow. As you know, Swahili is a universal language. Across different parts of the world, we use Swahili, sometimes more than English. And so this is quite important. And the idea of the fund, we've launched it online a few days ago. Anyone from the community could apply for a grant up to £500 to organise their own community events, cultural events, commission poetry, anything at all, plant trees, just to say goodbye to their loved ones. Yeah, so it'd be really fantastic from the community to apply. We're still raising money. We've raised £100,000. We'd like to raise more money to give more grants to all communities and all families that's been affected by this. So that's some of the many things that we are doing around the whole stuff around grief and loss. And also, finally, and more importantly, we want to make sure that our voices are taken seriously. Unfortunately, the government has not valued and respected the Black and Asian minority ethnic voice. They're not taking it seriously, our deaths. And we want proper accountability. We want a public inquiry. We want to make sure that NHS services are culturally sensitive, that meet the needs of all our communities. And we want to make sure that funding is available to support community groups who are doing all the heavy lifting to support the communities as we speak now.
Definitely, that's excellent. Great services you are providing, and one of the reasons you are also, I forgot to say, you are supporting this program in the next week's program. The way I wanted you to appear and talk about your services so that we can. In our community, we are sometimes very sort of close to the outside world. We work in a very isolated way, and it's great for us to connect with your organizations. And I'm sure big organizations like TCCA, Hüseyin is on their management committee. I'm sure they are aware of your services, and yet they are linking with you. If not, Hüseyin will make sure that they do from now on. And thanks very much indeed, Patrick. Thank you.
No problem.
Erkan, you are back with us. Can you hear me? Do you want to continue where you left?
Yeah. We're still having
some problems. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm having problems listening to you, but I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Erkan, yes, I can hear you perfectly. What I want to ask you, Erkan, is about how did you deal with the loss of your mom? Obviously, anger is one of the feelings you felt at the time. You mentioned your complaints about the way she was treated in hospital. What did you do after she died? How did you cope? Did you get help with counseling and other kind of help at all?
Unfortunately, I was like sitting in a box. No access to the world, no access to anyone. I couldn't even register my mum's death. There's a long waiting ritual. You have to wait for phone calls. it was hard enough dealing with a person you love passing. In this situation, in a major lockdown, my personal business was locked down. I haven't worked. The whole world was locked down. I couldn't even find my mum at one stage. The mosque went to collect my mum from the mortuary. She'd been transported to Wanstead Flats without our knowledge. Erkan Güney went to find her. He said, your mum's not here. We lost her. We couldn't get out to look for her. I've had no killing whatsoever. I had no access to anyone. No one called me. And I didn't have the mental capability of ringing anyone. And it's just been a long, long ordeal. I've lived through my dad's passing away. I was with him at the hospital. I've counseled mum through it. But in this situation, I had no one. I don't even know the ritual rites. I don't even know what prayers to say. Luckily, through Facebook is the only access to the world at the moment. My auntie got someone to text me some prayers. I said the prayers over my mum. That's all I can do. It's one of the worst things I've ever experienced in my life. Not just the death of someone I love. It's being locked down and losing someone, and you can't do nothing. I've always wanted to take my mum to Cyprus. I couldn't even do that. There was no straightforward answer coming from any source whatsoever. Rather than leave her sitting in a morgue, I was scratching my head. What do I do? Is this what my mum deserves? With the help of certain members of the community, they found me a burial plot very nearby, which Hüseyin Hoca attended to say the last rites for her there. But it was a long, drawn-out delay. No one to talk to. It's been frustrating. I don't know if it was anger, but it was frustrating. My hands were tied. I didn't know what prayer to say to my mum. I didn't know what to do. Her 40th came by. It just slipped by. Luckily, a very, very dear friend of the family, she's a Hajj herself, she says, don't worry, son. I read every Friday for your mum. The other day I rang her on Kandil to wish her Kandil, and I reminded her, Mum's 20th is coming up. What should we do? I don't know what to do. Do I ring the Hoja? Do I ring you? What can we do? She goes, don't worry, no matter what happens, I read for her. But because I can't be present, I'm not part of it. I'm not feeling it. My mum was a religious woman. She grew up knowing the Quran off by heart. She goes to the Mevlid. She recites everything with the prayer reader on the day, the Hoja. She recites it. She knows it all. I couldn't do it. Recently, a very mutual friend of ours, Sevil Hoja, she sent me a link. She said, pray this prayer at your mum's grave. She wants to hear it. She'll be restful. So I go and I play this prayer so that she could hear it. Maybe Hüseyin Hoca can tell me the name of the prayer, but I'm not sure what it's called.
Yes, Yasin.
Yeah, I'll go and play it on the Yasin, yeah? I play it for her. And it was my early days. I was going every week. Every week I was there. I couldn't grieve in any other way. A few people on Facebook and Instagram that follow me, because all I'm doing is posting pictures of mum. They said, enough, Erkan, you know. You've got to allow her to rest. You can't keep going.
I don't think people have a right to tell you it's enough. I mean, that's how you grieve. And I think you are doing the right thing. Those of us who don't do what you are doing are the ones who are suffering, basically, in silence. We should do what you are doing, be open and talk to people rather than keeping it to ourselves. So you are on the right track, Erkan. Don't listen to anyone.
Well, this is it. I didn't know what to do. Normally, I've experienced the last death in the family. Hüseyin Hoca read the rights in the Mevlits. My youngest nephew, Ediz, who died of a car crash, he attended our Mevlits. We go to the Mevlits, we bring food, we share food, we do the ritual things. I'm stuck in a pandemic. I'm not allowed to leave my house. I have underlying health issues. Even now I'm told not to leave. We couldn't follow anything. I had no advice, no help. I couldn't do things for my mum, and I don't want this to happen to my mum. So the only way I could deal with it was to visit her grave. I go there, I lay flowers. Luckily, there's a similar grave next to my mum, another Turkish family, and they have a prayer book with the engravings on it. I just stand there and I read those prayers to her. That's how I dealt with it, by constantly going to her grave on a weekly basis. I post on Facebook. I wanted to not let mum slip away. I wanted people to stay in touch with their auntie, with their grandma, with their sister. No one attended her grave. It was only 5-6 people, and I'm very grateful for those people who came. But there was people that should have been there. Her daughter wasn't there. Her son wasn't there. I'm the youngest. I stood up to the plate until her last breath. I was there in the hospital, and one of the greatest honors for me is when I got to the hospital, I held her hand. She was sort of sleeping effect. I called her out my name. She didn't respond. And I said it loud. I said, "Mum, it's Erkan. Can you hear me? Nod your head." And luckily she went like this. So she knew I was there for her. And as you can see through the pictures I've been sharing on Facebook, I sat there for 24 hours. 24 hours to her last breath. But it's been one of the worstest things I've ever dealt with in my life. It's not just a death, it's a pandemic death. It's isolation.
That's what makes it
locked away. For
that's
me,
what makes
I
it
don't
so
have a family.
difficult.
I don't have a family. I don't have a wife. I don't have children. I dedicated my mum's last years. That was my life, looking after her. And now all of a sudden, it's all over. And that's been one of the hardest things for me. Mentally, yes, I'm suffering. Yes, I'm suffering. Hence why I've decided enough's enough. I wanna leave. I wanna tap out. Try something different.
You want to go back to Cyprus, don't you?
I gotta try something different. I'm so lonely. I can't say. So lonely. I've got no family support. In Cyprus, at least I've got a few cousins, a few friends. What am I working for? I can't even work. I haven't worked in this last pandemic since the 12th of December. How many people can put their hands up and say you haven't worked? I'm self-employed. It's very, very lonely. I've had enough. I've spent a year crying, and a few friends have told me, try and be stronger, try and pull through now, and hopefully after the 20th of April, where it's our annual prayers we can say, I can relax a little bit more. But it's been hard. You asked me to do this show a year ago, and I said I can't do it.
Yeah, that's right.
I would have been on the floor.
Yeah,
I wanted to do it.
I think.
But I couldn't.
Yeah, Erkan, there is help out there. Patrick has outlined some of the help his organization gives. TCCA has got counselors as well. Please do go out there and seek some help. I know it's kind of help. Talking about your mom, putting pictures on Facebook and so on is help to you. They help you. Those kind of things help you. But you might need to go out and get some more help from great organizations like Stream and Ubele Initiative and so on. Talk to people like Hüseyin Hoca, who is on the management committee of TCCA. Ubele, seek out the Ubele's contacts and Stream and talk to them as well. Do talk to people. Can I just...
There's been a number of times I wanted to ring Hüseyin Hoja.
Anytime,
every week, unfortunately, every week I see the stress you guys are going through. Every week you're in the van going somewhere with egg.
Yeah.
I thought
painful.
I'm not the only one. There's hundreds, possibly thousands out there that need our help. But
unfortunately,
unfortunately, yes. But this is becoming a situation where
we have a lot of broken people at the moment. A lot of broken hearts.
Broken is a fantastic word. It's a fantastic word, that broken. I heard it on a BBC News interview, who interviewed some English gentleman about the similar sort of strife he's been going through. And the presenter turned around and said to him, "You're a broken man, aren't you now?" And that's how I related it to me. Yes, I am broken. Can I be repaired? I don't know.
We need to be there for one another, Erkan.
You will be, Erkan. You will be repaired. We will all be repaired. But we need to give each other support. We need to get support and give each other support. I invited someone else to this program, Tahir Bey, whose son Eren Elmaz died of COVID. He was one of the youngest member of the community. Eren was only 37. He fell ill on the 27th of December last year, Boxing Day. He was rushed to North Middlesex Hospital. Then he was taken to University College Hospital. The hospital gave encouraging reports in the beginning. They were saying he's doing really well, he'll be okay, and so on. And all of a sudden, one day, they rang the family saying that his condition was getting worse. And exactly a month after he was admitted to the hospital, he died on the 27th of January, 2021. Exactly 1 month after after he succumbed to this virus. He had a 3-year-old daughter, and he was about to exchange contract on a new house with his family. So Eren and his family, we wish them heartfelt condolences to the whole family, as well as to many other families whose loved ones succumbed to this horrible virus. So it's coming to an end. We are coming to the end of the program. And can I just take a very brief last few words from each of you? Can I start with you, Patrick?
Sure. And just to message Erkan, your mom would want you to be the best for you. You got plans ahead. Just look ahead. Think of your mom, and we need to have hope and aspiration. All of us. We have to. It's a difficult time. It's a dark time for all of us, but we have to be positive. So, in terms of the work that we are doing at Ubele, it's really great that we're supporting and sponsoring these programs, and we want the community to speak, to share their experiences. Don't suffer in silence, because that's the worst thing that can happen. The Mainstream is. Please go onto the website. You can register, and you can access a counsellor. by completing a straightforward referral form. So it's BAME, BAME, stream, stream.org.uk. And the Majonzi Fund, if you want to apply for a grant to celebrate or commemorate, to honour loved ones and community events, it's Majonzi, Majonzi's MAJONZI-fund.com.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Patrick. And thanks your organization for sponsoring this program. Thank you very much. Erkan, can I take your last words?
From me?
I'll come back to it. Yeah, go on. Yeah. What do you want to say last, Erkan?
Just cherish your thoughts, cherish your memories of your loved ones. Do whatever you can to remember them. I hope I've done my mum proud. I just thank people in the community that did step up for me when I was a broken man. Thank you to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Erkan, for coming to the program. Thanks very much indeed. Hüseyin, do you want to say the last few words?
I want to thank you, Ertanc, for organising such a program, and Eurogames TV, which has been amazing throughout the pandemic, doing these programs related with COVID-19 and with grief and depression. These are sometimes subjects in our communities, as Patrick would say, that are taboo subjects. You know, people don't talk about depression. If you're from the Black or Asian community, it's all dealt at home, but we need to get professional help. There are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people who need help. Thousands of lives have been shattered. People have lost loved ones. I feel for Erkan. I knew his mum really well. I knew your sister really well, Ertanc, and most of the people that unfortunately I buried, I knew them. And I just want to say this to Erkan, that the other day you posted something, and do continue to post, because that's therapy in itself. Sharing your stories with your mum is a therapy, and it's good. And when I saw the picture of her plaque with the traditional Cypriot headscarf wrapped around there, I said, you know, you made your mum proud, and she's with you. Her spirit's there, and she knows the love that you've given her. I hope she rests in peace. She was a lovely, lovely lady. We're going to miss all these people. If anybody's watching this show and has experienced the loss of a loved one and needs professional help, we're here. Please contact Eurogames TV, Ertanc, Patrick's amazing organisations that he's working for to help one another. Contact TCCA. There's so much we can do, but we can do it only if we're united, and united we will be. Thank you, Ertanc.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Yes, please do join us next week, everyone. Next week, we are going to talk to young people and how they deal with the loss of their loved ones. Because, again, young people are the other sections of the community who are sometimes forgotten, especially in this situation for COVID-19. They are the worst affected group of people, young people. They really have suffered, whether they are students or going to university or just starting work, just trying to make a family. They've suffered a lot, maybe more than any of us. So please do join us and hear them as well. Thank you very much indeed, and thanks a lot for coming to the program.
Thank you.
Good night, Ferdinand.
Good night.
Thank you.